Welcome to Cryptic, where we dive into the unknown. In this video, we're exploring real-life encounters with aliens and UFOs, stories that blur the line between reality and the unimaginable. From mysterious lights in the sky to close encounters that defy explanation, get ready to journey into the world of extraterrestrial phenomena. Buckle up, because what you're about to see might just change the way you look at the universe. Let's get started. My family saw a UFO, now we don't speak. My family experienced something I can't explain, and we've stopped talking to each other. I don't know what to do. I don't want to sound crazy. We're normal people. If any of this sounds familiar, please reach out to me. I need to know what's happening to my family. It's hard to know where to begin. I don't know when this all started, but it hasn't stopped. I live with my wife and 2 college-aged daughters. I'm a private chef. My wife is a teacher. We live in a suburb outside a coastal U.S. city in an 80s-era planned community where every house and street feels like a mirror image. Crisp lawns, HOAs, everyone knows everyone. The people are a little bland, but we have a yard and a pool, and we can pay for groceries, and we can barely afford to send our kids to college out of state. We were lucky, I thought. My first experience with the supernatural was last spring. "Okay, you're really gonna hate this one," Sarah said. It was Monday, my Saturday, and I was grilling vegetables by the pool. My eldest daughter, a born trickster, sat on the least broken pool chair, bombarding me with the most willfully ignorant pop music she could find, or terrible cooking videos, or clips of classic cars refurbished with electric motors. Anything to get a reaction out of her poor Gen X dad. "Please, no. How about the guy who makes things out of chocolate?" I countered, hoping for a compromise. "I'm looking for the Kings game you went to in 2006, where they lost 1-10. Sarah jabbed. "I'm burning your food on purpose," I quipped. "Wait," Sarah said, suddenly still. "Whatever this thing is, whatever these things are, my wife and my daughters feel it before I do. I don't know if they're more sensitive to it or what, but they always know something is there before me. Call it women's intuition. What's wrong?" As I said it, I remember it got very quiet. Like the volume for the outside world turned all the way down. The birds, the traffic, and the white noise of suburbia went silent. I couldn't even hear the sizzle of the vegetables cooking 2 feet in front of me. The lack of sound didn't bother me, however, because I saw something in the sky. A disc. I didn't want to see a disc, but I saw a disc. It was made of metal, perfectly smooth. No rivets, no seams, no wings, no exhaust. A perfectly formed metal disc, 15 feet wide, like 2 contact lenses stuck together, just sitting there. There were lights, big ones, bright in the sun even in the middle of the day, moving all around it. I remember thinking, really, part of me was exasperated at how, well, dumb it looked, like an old movie model. Only somehow I knew it was real, and I was being watched, and then I felt the fear. If you ask me, I think the craft makes people feel it. I don't know. I know it sounds crazy. It's like a madness. It fills you up, cold, just pure terror. As soon as your eyes see a craft, in a few seconds your mind blanks, and you feel only fear of the thing in front of you. The disc-shaped ones and the triangle-shaped ones, they always seem to broadcast the fear. I'd never felt panic like that. I know how to deal with it a little easier now, but back then I wanted to put my daughter in the car and drive as far away from the thing as possible. Only I was completely frozen. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. I could only move my eyes, and even that took tremendous effort. I struggled to look in my daughter's direction and saw she was equally paralyzed. Her pupils turned to me, then back to the craft. And we did that for a few seconds, trying to process what was happening, looking to the disc, to each other, and back. It was agony. And then the disc was gone. I was looking right at it. It didn't fly away. It didn't zoom off at incredible speeds. It was like it stopped existing while I was staring at it. When it was gone, I could move and I could breathe, and my daughter started crying, and I comforted her, and we swore and shook. What the hell was that? Are you okay? I remember we both asked that. I remember reaching for my phone, but it was dead. Sarah's phone was dead too. We went inside to charge them, still in a daze. Your face is really red, said Sarah, concerned. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. She was right. My face was burned, like a sunburn. I wear sunblock every day and often work long hours in the sun. I never get sunburned. I'll get you some aloe, Sarah said, retreating into the downstairs bathroom. I glanced at the oven clock. It was 3 hours later than I expected. 3 hours, I muttered. We were only outside for a few minutes, right? Sarah's eyes widened in realization. What happened to us? Sarah said softly. We were missing time. I don't know where that time went. I don't know what happened during that time. Time feels weird around these things. It's hard to describe. We didn't talk much for a while. We just kind of sat in the living room, scrolling our phones. The evening darkened. I remember thinking I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what. My wife Lauren and our youngest daughter Danny, returning home from work, broke us out of our malaise. A UFO burned your face, Lauren said, incredulous. Lauren was always funny, even when she wasn't trying to be. I won't lie, it sounded dumb. I tried to think of how to word it better. I saw it too. It was really weird. Sarah said seriously. You sure you weren't standing too close to the grill again? Danny teased. Her pants were covered in flour and oil. Her hair pulled back. Danny worked at a restaurant, despite my objections. You're supposed to make the food in the restaurant, not on your outfit, I teased back. Danny smirked. She liked kitchen talk. She was a lot like me in that way. I don't understand. Did you provoke them? Why'd they come all the way from space just to burn you? Lauren asked, spreading student tests on the dining room table. Did it look like the ones we saw when we were kids? Danny asked Sarah. No, this one was different. It was a different shape, Sarah said, shaking her head. What are you talking about? Which ones? I asked, confused. Do you remember the night we saw the blue elf? Danny asked. Memories of Sarah and Danny as kids flooded my brain. One night, a brilliant blue light in the sky. Sarah and Danny ran into our room to hide. The feeling of someone watching. The memory filled me with dread. Feeling uncomfortable, I tried to change the subject. I don't want to cook tonight. Let's order out. What should we get? I said, presenting a distraction. We ate dinner as a family that night. We talked about normal things. I tried to seem unbothered, but I was obsessively turning over the sighting of the disc in my mind. What was that? Why couldn't we move? The feeling stayed with me long after the meal had ended and the dishes were done. I remember that was our last normal dinner. I wish I'd made more of an effort that night. We'll never be the same family we were then. I guess before I tell you about that night, I should explain what an orb is. An orb is a kind of floating sphere. It looks kind of like a blue basketball filled with spaghetti-looking strands of something. It has a mind, I think. I don't know what these things are. From what I can tell, they are unknowable. They will harm you. If you see an orb, my advice is to run. They can move through walls. The first night with the orbs changed all of our lives forever. We stopped talking after that night. I don't know if I can write it down in detail yet. Even this was hard. I read something recently. Scientists have communicated with apes via sign language since the 1960s. In all that time, apes have never asked a question. Maybe they can't conceive of what a question is. Their mind just can't form the reasoning to understand how to think of one. I think that's what it's like when we see these things, these orbs, or discs, or whatever. Like we're seeing something we can't comprehend. I don't think we think about aliens the right way. They're not from another planet. They're from somewhere else entirely. Something has happened to my family. Something happened and we're still dealing with it, and I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to tell people. We're afraid to talk about it with each other. I'm not even sure if anyone will read this. The world needs to know what's out there, what my family experienced. My family can't be the first. There must be others. If you're still with me after these ramblings, thank you. The next part will not be easy to write, but you deserve to know the full truth about what the orbs did to us, what they're capable of. For now, I present to you this information. I do not think we live in a completely material world. There are supernatural forces all around us, and most of them are unkind. Be careful with how you think and what you think of. Now that you've heard the first story, things are only going to get stranger. If you thought that was unbelievable, wait until you hear what's coming next. This next encounter takes us even deeper into the mysteries of the unknown. Let's dive right in. My daughter called them helpers. I wish I had understood the simplicity of that. I've been in therapy for the last 30 years of my life. My therapist says that it's helpful and cathartic to share your life experiences with others. It helps you process your emotions and recognize them as a real and tangible thing. Truth be told, I don't want to talk about this shit because that's what it is. Just shit. Constantly weighing me down and leaving a pungent and nasty sense of guilt in my mind. But I'll share my experience with you. I came from a very conservative home. We didn't believe in anything odd. We were churchgoers, and we didn't practice anything outside of what we believed. So I never had Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny in my life. Why does that matter? Because I want you to understand that I never believed in anything extraordinary. My life was very simple and normal. I didn't believe in fairy tales, fantasies, or made-up nonsense. But that didn't matter. I came face to face with it in due time. I got married to my husband in the mid-'80s. He was a farm boy who had worked a dairy operation his whole life, and we were set up on a blind date by some friends. That kind of stuff doesn't happen very often these days. I wanted to go to school to be a teacher. I wanted to do something with my life, but that wasn't how it happened. Instead, I became the farmer's wife, and I lived in the country with my husband. The only things for me to do were the chores, cooking, and lots of homemaking. Eventually, I became pregnant with our first child, Jessica. She was born in 1989, and she was my entire world. I adored being her mother. It was wonderful. So, what's so terrible about any of this? Well, nothing, of course, but our lives changed soon enough. It started about a week after Jessica's 5th birthday. The first thing we saw were the lights in the windows. We never could quite pin down when exactly it was happening, but intermittently through the night, these large beams of light would penetrate the windows of our house. Bob would go outside and look everywhere to see what in the hell had been causing these lights, but he never could find it. We thought that maybe some punk teenagers were running their cars through the fields, but we never found any tire tracks or any indication that anyone or anything had been nearby. Then Jessica's kindergarten teacher contacted us with some concerns. Jessica had been doing well, but she continued to draw pictures that disturbed her classmates and her teacher. I still have copies of the drawings. In almost every one of Jessica's pictures from that year, she had drawn herself next to three skinny and long figures. The drawings were crude and not easy to decipher, but for all intents and purposes, the figures were usually tall, grayish or black-skinned, had red eyes, and were almost always depicted with an arm around or on Jessica. It freaked me the fuck out. She wouldn't stop drawing these damn things. I would ask her over and over again what she was drawing, and I'd get the same reply. They're helpers, Mommy. Helpers? What in the hell were they helping? Or who? I would try to ask more pointed questions, but I always got limited responses. They help people, Mommy. Those are helpers. They come to help. I took Jessica to a couple of different child psychologists. I talked to mental health providers. I would just get the same kind of answers. She's creating characters for herself to have as friends. She's expressing her imagination through art. This is normal in childhood development. Okay, sure, but did these drawings have to look so damn creepy? After some time, the drawings did become less frequent. Jessica didn't talk about the helpers quite as often as she used to, although once in a while it would come up, but Bob and I were not prepared for the worst news of our lives. It came shortly after Jessica's 8th birthday. Our little girl had leukemia, cancer, fucking cancer in a child. I didn't know what to do or say at that time. I couldn't fathom how God could let something terrible like this happen. I was angry and I was upset. We took Jessica to the best doctors. We made sure she got the best care possible, but she wasn't getting any better. My little girl was getting weaker and sicker as the months went by. We eventually decided to bring Jessica home. We didn't know how much time she had left, and we just wanted to be with her. Then the incident happened. I woke up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night one evening, and the whole house was lit up in a bright light. There was a very low hum of noise that reverberated through the entire house. I could hear ringing in my ears and I felt disoriented, but my motherly instincts led me to my daughter's bedroom. When I got there, I immediately froze in fear. There were two things, and they were standing over my daughter. I can't explain accurately what I saw to you, because nothing in our world resembles what I saw. Tall, dark in color, glowing red eyes. But I do know that these things gave me the sense that they were intelligent and I didn't know what they wanted. I had been standing there, immobile, and phased out until I saw my daughter slowly start to hover above her bed. Yes, she was hovering in the air. I freaked out and started screaming at the top of my lungs. The reaction was instantaneous. My daughter began to cry, and her emotion noticeably affected the things there in the room. About this time, my husband came running into the room and had seen what was happening. He ran down the hall, and before long he was aiming his 12-gauge shotgun at whatever the hell these things were in the room. I remember the low hum in the room being replaced by the echoing blast of Bob's shotgun. Then a high-pitched shriek coming from the thing he had shot. A spew of greenish liquid went flying toward the corner of the room and burned a hole into the floor as it landed. This was instantly followed by what I can only describe as the loudest blast of noise that I have ever heard in my life. It hurt my ears so badly that I shut my eyes and fell to the floor in a fetal position, holding my arms over my head. I don't know how long I was in that position, but eventually the noise was gone and I was able to get up. Bob was on the floor trying to recover himself, and Jessica was in her bed, crying and sobbing uncontrollably. Somehow it had become morning and the night had mysteriously gone. I can't explain this experience any more than what I just did. To my best recollection, that's what happened. We never talked about it after that day. At least not for a long time. Unfortunately, a month later we lost our precious Jessica to cancer. Bob and I stayed together for one more year, but it was all too much. We divorced. It wasn't until years later that I realized what happened. We fucked up. Bob and I fucked up. Jessica had always called them helpers. I didn't understand it until I finally began to explore my experience. I started attending UFO conferences, connecting with enthusiasts that followed extraterrestrial activity. I even talked to a few college professors. Whatever had happened years ago wasn't nefarious. They came to help me, to help my daughter. They may have been able to cure her cancer. Their science and technology were most certainly more advanced than ours. I've lived with these feelings for years. I've talked to so many people. I spent several nights during the week thinking about how things could have been different. This is what I do know. My husband and I acted out of fear. My daughter tried to tell me what was going to happen. I never took what she meant to be the truth. Now I live with the horror of knowing that I helped stop that one thing that may have saved my daughter. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed these stories or have your own experiences to share, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on the next dive into the unexplained. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and stay curious.